Hello folks, welcome back to the channel, and we continue with the Tamiya Corsair F4U build. So since the last video, quite a lot has happened off camera, and the reason for that is that the techniques I showed you in the last video on the wing are no different over the rest of the aircraft really. So essentially we now at this stage where we've got one wing on in obviously the folded position, all the decals are on, and we've had the panel line wash. It's starting to look how I wanted it to look. So the look we're going for, as I said, is use, not abuse. So some very light weathering. So you can see around the engine cowling here and around some of these panels is some slight metal chipping. We've attached the propeller, which is looking lovely now against that engine that we worked on in the third video, I think that was. So yeah, it's all coming together now. I've unmasked the windscreen. The cockpit canopy is still masked to keep that as clear as possible, and we'll put that on right at the end. So it goes together lovely. Even the folded wing, I was a little bit worried. As I say, I'm not an aircraft modeler. This is all very new to me, a new genre. So I was very worried that that'd be quite complex. However, we can see, oh, don't drop it. We can see that this is actually fairly straightforward. So I'll show you how I do that in this video, or how the kit tells us to do it. But it's a lot more straightforward than I envisaged it was going to be, and it looks the part. So essentially we're kind of at the final assembly stage now really. So all the undercarriage is in place, as you can see. That was problem free, typical Tamiya. I've started a little bit of weathering just around those exhausts there, and you can see sort of these smoke stains. As I say, we're going for used, not abused. All the undercarriage in place without the doors. The doors will be done, and they're all painted and stuff. They just need to be attached, which I'll do right at the end. So yeah, that's where we're at with this. So what are we going to do in this video? So where I've done that engine smoke, sort of smoke staining, exhaust staining, we're going to have a look at the wing. And do it on this, and then we're going to attach the wing. So the reason for that is that around these sort of gun ports here, we're just going to put some very subtle staining from there, and on the underside we're just going to do it again where the gun ports are, and also where these shell ejection ports are, and just put some very subtle effects on there. And that's pretty much it. Then we're going to put the wing in place, and I'm going to show you how I do that. So how are we going to do this staining? It's really, really simple. So I have this pre-mixed smoke stain. So essentially it's Tamiya XF2 flat black, but it's heavily thinned. So it's thinned about 90% with UMP airbrush thinner. And what that enables you to do is build up a gradual effect. So the way we're going to do that is give that a good shake, and then what we're going to do is use our 0.2 UMP apex, because we need to get in a bit closer, and we're going to spray at about 8 psi ish. That's kind of the, because we want a lot of control, we don't want to overdo it. Less is more, as they say. So give that a good stir, and we need a tiny drop in the airbrush. So the reason I'm not doing this in the spray booth is firstly so I can show you on camera, and secondly we're literally going to be spraying some tiny little lines, so I'm not too concerned. So we're about 8 psi. We've given that a stir. We're going to drop a tiny drop into the airbrush. Hopefully my compressor's not too distracting for you. And as I say, this is the 0.2 apex, and just gentle trigger control now. As I say, less is more. We don't need to go nuts. And we're quite close into the model because the PSI is not great, and we buggered that up, so we've got some spidering. Sod's law when you do it on camera, but not to worry, we can fix it. So if you need to adjust your PSI, you can do. And we're just going for this very subtle smoke staining. So you can see I've spidered that a little bit, but not to where I can clean that up. But yeah, we can see that's the sort of effect we're going for. And we'll do the same on the other side. And there we go. We've kind of got that muscle memory now, and our eye is in. So we're going over the top of this chipping, which I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. And just very, very subtle. There we go. And again around these ejection ports, these hot sort of empty cases, cartridges are ejected from the aircraft, and that's it. It's as simple as that. We're just, as I say, going for this very, very subtle effect. Where that's a little bit wet there, we can just go in a little bit more and just kind of blend it in. Not a problem at all. But we definitely want to be going in the direction of the airflow. And because this paint is so thin, it's almost like a wash, we can really build up that effect slowly. And there we go. So that's that done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly clean the airbrush. I'm going to put the lid back on this because that's a disaster waiting to happen. And basically this is coloured leveling thinner, so it'll make a mess of your cutting that. But you can kind of see there, we've got this gun smoke happening. And that's what we want to do. So I'm going to get the airbrush cleaned, let that dry, take a couple of minutes, and then we'll come back and I'm going to do a bit of chipping around these panels and show you how I'm doing that. So if I zoom in, hopefully you can see there. Shame about that spidering, but to be honest, fixing it would be more difficult. So once that's dry and flatted, and it's going to be in that sort of position on the aircraft, we're not going to worry too much. The underside is actually more important, which we've managed to capture pretty much. So yeah, I will be back. And we'll get this wing attached, and we'll get everything together. And I'll show you how to do the chipping on some of the panels. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, folks. So we're going to do a little bit of chipping. So you can see on the engine cowling here where we've got this sort of metallic-y sheen, and then on the prop itself, around the edges, like so. Also, hopefully you can make out on the wing just some very slight weathering, some very slight chipping. We're not going to go nuts because, as I say, we're going for used, not abused. So on the wing itself, on the underside, we've already done some various chips and scrapes and all that sort of stuff, and we're going to do some on the wing itself. So that it's really, really simple, or the way I do it is really, really simple. There are many, many ways to do this. I have no idea what I'm doing really, so I keep it nice and simple. So I'm going to be using a Citadel colour called Iron Hands Steel. Give it a good shake, and essentially almost like a stippling stroke dry brush type effect. So we want to go along the edge of the wing here, the leading edge, and have some sort of metallic sheen showing through around these kind of edges here where the wing folds are, and we're just kind of stippling like so. It's not really a dry brush as such, because it's there's a bit more paint on the brush than that, but we're just using a cheap flathead brush on the control surfaces there, on the flaps, just as they'd be scraping potentially as they're going in and out of the wing itself. So you don't need loads of paint on your brush, but what you want is enough so that the effect is noticeable, particularly when, sounds silly, but particularly when you look at it, because you want it to be quite subtle. You don't want it overdone as such, because as I say, I mean, you can do it if you were going to do real heavy chipping, obviously hairspray, chipping fluid, masking fluid, that sort of stuff, but we're not really going for this sort of heavy chipped look. We just want some sort of metallic showing through in various areas really, certainly around the gun bay, as that would be open and closed fairly often, like so, and that's enough. There's a little bit more, it's a little bit more prominent on the underneath, because the rockets etc would be removed and put on, and when it's on the aircraft carrier, it's the outer surface, this underneath of the aircraft, that's going to be scraped. Or that's my thinking anyway, and whether that's accurate or not, who knows, I wasn't there, but it looks good to my eye. And as with everything I do, this isn't how you should do it, this is just how I'm doing it. But yeah, so we're done with that really. So attaching the wing itself then, so really simple. We've got, if you look on the one that's already done, let's put the lid on that. So on the one that's already done, we have this kind of support bar strut. So you'll notice on the side of the fuselage there, it tells you to drill a hole, which we have done. And also on the surface of the wing, just at the edge of the star and bars, we've also drilled a hole. And the idea being, we're going to put another support bar in there. So let's get the support bar first of all. That's always good. If I'd have been planning ahead, I'd have cut this off the sprue and got it all ready prior to switching the camera on, but in true fashion, I haven't. So this has just been painted with Iron Hands Steel, predominantly just painted on the sprue, which I very rarely do, very rarely. But for this, why not? So if you notice on the bar, so if you notice on the bar, you've got this kind of angled bit which is going against the fuselage, and then on the other end it just slots into the wing. So we're going to put a tiny dab of super glue gel on this end here, not much at all, it is just enough to hold it in place, and then locate the hole on the fuselage and pop that in. And the reason we're doing that is to kind of hold it there while we put the wing on. So if you notice on the internal of the wing there, we've got this block, and that's going to slide onto this support strut here. So line it up. It takes, because now they've been painted, the tolerance is so good, it will just take a bit of test and adjust just to get it to work. And then once you're on, you slide the wing home all the way, and then we'll go in with our tweezers. Zoom out a little bit. So we'll go in with the tweezers here, and we will just locate the hole that we've drilled in the wing and make sure that bar sits in that hole, as well as the fuselage. Make sure everything's true and straight, which it is, and there we go. That is our wing fold. It's really simple. I thought it was going to be very, very complex, but it certainly isn't. So what have we got to do now then? So essentially, all we need to do now is put the antenna wire on, the undercarriage doors on, and we're pretty much there for the aircraft, and then our attention is going to turn to a base in the next video. But for now, we're kind of there or thereabouts. So we'll put the canopy on, unmask that, and we'll put all the undercarriage doors on. Yeah, it's looking quite nice. Completely overdone with the panel lines and all that, but that was the look I was going for. So we've kind of achieved what we set out to achieve, really. And as I say, I'm learning aircraft, so it's a whole new genre for me, and I just wanted it, you know, to get it together, do the best build I could, really. In later builds, I will experiment with more sort of fancy aircraft techniques and paint jobs and all that sort of stuff. But for this one, I just wanted to kind of get it together and see how it looked. And I'm quite pleased with how it's looking so far. So, and I think once it's on the base and all that good stuff, then it will really start to make it pop. So I'll be back in a minute, and we're going to get this undercarriage in place. Oh, sorry, the undercarriage doors in place. So I'll see you in a minute. Right then, guys, we are done as far as the build of the aircraft. We're pretty much done. So all the wings are attached, the support bars are in place, etc, etc. All the undercarriage doors are in place, the undercarriage itself, fuel tanks, all that good stuff. So yeah, we are done. It's turned out really nice, exactly how I sort of envisaged it. The only thing we've really got to do now is we're going to work on the base, which will be the next video. And also I need to attach an antenna cable, so I'll use Easy Line for that, and the pitot tube on the wing here. But that can be done once it's sort of going onto the base. That'll be the absolute final thing. So the sort of, for me, the kind of scary bit of any build really is the unmasking of any clear parts, particularly with aircraft, sort of the canopy unmasking and that sort of stuff. So let's try. And I say that, look, and I'm looking for it. Oh, there it is. Oh, that was lucky I didn't roll over it. So here's the canopy all masked. So what we're going to do is we're going to unmask this on camera. So it'll either be great or I'll have to do it again. So you can never tell until you remove that masking tape whether we've had any sort of bleed through or anything like that. So far, so good. Nice and gently does it. We don't want to crack it at this stage. There we go. Beautiful. So the canopy is done. It's maintained nice and clear. Trying to avoid any fingerprints and just pop that in place. I'm not going to attach that as such. We just want it sort of resting in the open position on the aircraft so that we can still see the cockpit and everything. We're not going to be handling this massively. So I don't need to kind of glue that in place. And that's it. So that's the aircraft. In the next part, we're going to come back. We're going to work on a base. And we want it sort of on the carrier deck at a bit of an angle. Putting it at home, really. Yeah, as I say, completely, what's the word? Unrealistic. before anyone come and say they didn't look like that. Yeah, I know. But this is more of an exercise in me getting an aircraft together, and messing around with panel lines and that sort of stuff. The UMP concrete washers worked a treat. You can see that, and it's given a real stark contrast with the panel lines, etc. Very sort of stylized, over the top look. So I'm really happy with how that's turned out. Yeah, so don't forget to go and visit umpretail.com. Visit Black Rifle Model Worx Facebook group and join there, share your work and look at all the great work on there. And until next time, guys, stay safe, happy hobbying. Bye-bye.